I found out my fiancé was cheating 2 days before our wedding. I canceled the wedding and told everyone. Hello, everyone. I'm Adam, a 29-year-old from Boston, and I'm still reeling from the events that unfolded just a few days ago. I never envisioned myself sharing my story like this, but here I am, trying to unravel the tangled web that my life has become. Let's take it from the top. I met Rachel at a mutual friend's birthday bash 4 years back. We instantly connected, bonding over our mutual affection for indie rock and lesser-known sci-fi literature. A few months later, it was clear we were meant to be. Rachel embodied all the qualities I desired in a partner. She was intelligent, humorous, and compassionate. As our relationship deepened, things moved swiftly. We started living together within a year, welcomed a rescue dog named Buddy into our lives, and began planning a future together. On our third anniversary, I popped the question. Rachel's response was a joyous yes, and soon we were busy planning our ideal wedding. Everything seemed idyllic. Our families were ecstatic. Her parents, Tom and Linda Miller, offered to pay for most of the wedding, considering it their gift to us. My own parents, Alex and Amanda, weren't far behind. They hosted an elaborate engagement party and were deeply involved in the planning. The harmony between our families only sweetened the experience. It felt as though fate was on our side, and I was ready to embark on a new chapter with the love of my life. Our guest list for the wedding included about 150 attendees, spanning family and friends from across the nation, many of whom had already arrived and were staying locally. The rehearsal dinner was set for Friday evening, with everyone eagerly anticipating the celebration. However, the unexpected struck last Thursday, just 2 days before our wedding. I had taken the day off to finalize some wedding details. Meanwhile, Rachel was meant to be at her last dress fitting with her mother and bridesmaids. I was at home, confirming our honeymoon plans, when a text from my best friend and best man, Liam, changed everything. The message was terse. Call me ASAP. It's important. Puzzled and anxious, I dialed Liam right away. The news he delivered was like a blow to my stomach. Liam, who works at a tech firm in the city center, had just witnessed Rachel walking into a nearby hotel with another man. He described them as being quite close, their hands intertwined in a way that suggested more than friendship. Initially, I was in disbelief. Rachel had my complete trust. Surely there was a reasonable explanation. Perhaps it was a relative she hadn't mentioned, or a friend from out of town here for the wedding. However, as Liam continued with his observations, my optimism faded. He detailed how Rachel and the man had shared a kiss, one unmistakably romantic, before disappearing into the hotel. A wave of nausea overtook me as reality began to sink in. I expressed my gratitude to Liam for his honesty and hung up, feeling a mix of shock and numbness. Motionless, I sat there for what seemed like an eternity. Eventually, propelled by a mix of dread and urgency, I found myself automatically grabbing my keys and driving to the hotel Liam had mentioned. I stationed myself across the street, heart pounding, as minutes stretched into what felt like an agonizing eternity. About 45 minutes later, they appeared. There was Rachel, linked arm in arm with a tall, dark-haired stranger, laughing as though she hadn't a care in the world. I watched, heartbroken, as she leaned up to kiss him, a long, passionate gesture that shattered any remaining hopes I had. The scene before me was like a vivid nightmare unfolding in real life. I can't recall the drive back home. It's a blur, but somehow I ended up back on our couch, staring blankly ahead. Buddy, our dog, seemed to sense the turmoil within me, nudging my hand and whining gently, but I couldn't muster the energy to respond. Hours later, Rachel returned, cheerful as if the day were just like any other. She pecked me on the cheek and excitedly recounted her afternoon, blissfully chatting about the dress fitting and how she couldn't wait for our wedding day. I was stunned by Rachel's ease in lying straight to my face. Patiently, I waited for her to finish her excited chatter about the wedding plans. Then I cut straight to the heart of the matter. "Who is he, Rachel?" I asked. The color immediately drained from her face, her previous enthusiasm replaced by a flicker of panic. She feigned ignorance at first, asking what I meant, but I confronted her with the facts. Liam's call, the hotel sighting, their intimacy. I demanded to know how long this had been happening and how she could betray me, betray us, especially so close to our wedding. Rachel broke down, tears streaming down her face, pleading for a chance to explain. Through her sobs, she confessed that the man was Jack, an ex-boyfriend from her college days. They had reconnected recently through social media, and their casual chats had spiraled into more. She insisted it was just physical and that her heart still belonged to me, that she wanted our wedding to happen. Her words shattered me. The future I had envisioned with her dissolved right before my eyes. Overwhelmed by betrayal, I told her to leave. I couldn't bear to look at her as she attempted to salvage what was left, pleading for forgiveness. My decision was final. The wedding was off, and I wanted her out of my life. After she left, I sat amongst our unwrapped wedding gifts, a grim reminder of the life that would never be. As shock faded, anger took its hold. I thought of our friends and family who had made plans to join our celebration, of all the time and money poured into this wedding. Resolute, I began making calls, first to my parents, then to Rachel's, sharing the painful truth. I reached out to our wedding planner to halt all arrangements and sent a mass message to all our guests, candidly revealing the reason for the cancellation. Reflecting on that decision now, I recognize it was impulsive, but at that moment, transparency felt necessary. I refused to let Rachel reshape the narrative or paint me as the villain. The fallout was immense. Rachel's parents oscillated between apologizing to me and defending their daughter, their messages filled with shock and embarrassment. My own parents were livid, feeling deceived. Amidst the chaos, several of Rachel's friends contacted me, each conversation reopening the wounds just as they began to heal. After I shared the news, some people criticized me for embarrassing Rachel publicly. However, many of our mutual friends and others showed their support for me and expressed disappointment in Rachel's actions. The financial side is also complicated. Rachel's parents want to recover the money they spent on the wedding, but at this point, many costs are non-refundable. There's even talk of legal action, although I'm not sure if it will come to that. Amid all this turmoil, I've been trying to rebuild my life. I've moved out of our shared apartment and am currently staying with my parents. I made sure to bring Buddy, our dog, with me. I couldn't leave him behind. I've taken a break from work to sort things out, but realize I can't avoid reality forever. So, I'm reaching out to you, Reddit. Was I wrong for exposing my cheating fiancé and calling off our wedding so suddenly? I'm caught between relief that I discovered the truth before our marriage and feeling lost about my next steps. I'd appreciate any advice or perspectives you can offer. Thanks for taking the time to read my story, and I'm eager to hear your thoughts. Update 1. Hey everyone, it's Adam again. It's been a month since my last post, and quite a bit has happened. I'm really grateful for all your support and advice during one of the toughest times of my life. I promised to update you, so here it is. First, I want to address the mass message I sent about Rachel's cheating. Many of you pointed out that it was a rash decision. At the time, it felt right, but I now see it may not have been the best way to handle the situation. I've had some time to think, and I admit that while my reaction was understandable, it wasn't completely appropriate. Since then, the aftermath of the canceled wedding has been chaotic. I received countless messages and calls from friends, family, and even some of Rachel's family members. It all became too much, and I had to turn off my phone for a few days just to find some quiet. My parents have been incredible pillars of support during this time. They've let me stay with them, assisting with the practical side of dismantling a life I once envisioned with Rachel. Mom has been cooking all my favorite dishes, and Dad takes me fishing on weekends. These simple acts mean everything to me right now. Buddy, our dog, or rather, now my dog, has also been a great source of comfort. His unconditional love is therapeutic, and he sticks close to me as if he knows I need extra support. Dealing with Rachel's family, however, has been complex. They were initially shocked and embarrassed when I told them about Rachel's infidelity, especially given their emotional and financial investment in the wedding. At first, they were in constant contact, oscillating between apologies and defenses for Rachel. They insisted her actions were out of character and pleaded with me to reconsider, to give her another chance. But I knew the trust we had was irrevocably broken. The financial implications of canceling the wedding have been daunting. Many costs were already non-refundable by that stage. The Millers even hinted at legal action to recover their expenses, adding more stress to an already strained situation. After a week of tense emails and phone calls, we agreed to meet and discuss things calmly. We chose a neutral spot, a quiet cafe downtown, to tackle the financial issues. It was an uncomfortable meeting. Rachel's parents and I were both tense as we reviewed the expenses, trying to discern what could be refunded and what couldn't. Ultimately, we reached a compromise. I took responsibility for costs directly associated with me, like my tuxedo and the groomsman's attire, along with a few other minor items. The Millers agreed to cover the expenses related to Rachel and the shared costs, such as the venue and catering. The compromise we reached wasn't perfect, and I could tell the Millers weren't completely satisfied. However, under the circumstances, it felt like the most equitable solution. We all left the meeting exhausted but relieved that we had managed to resolve at least one part of this ordeal. The toughest challenge, though, has been dealing with my feelings for Rachel. Despite the sharp sting of her betrayal and my initial rage, I couldn't simply erase the 4 years of love and shared memories. They lingered, resisting my efforts to push them away. Rachel reached out to me multiple times after our fallout. Initially, I ignored all her attempts to connect. I needed space to sort through my whirlwind of emotions. About 2 weeks later, I decided it was time to face her. I felt I owed it to both of us to at least hear her out. We met at a park close to where we once lived, under the clear sky of a sunny day. Yet, the air between us was heavy with tension. Rachel was visibly distressed, her eyes swollen from crying, her hair unkempt, a stark contrast to the composed woman I once knew. Upon seeing me, she immediately broke down. Amid her tears, Rachel offered a flood of apologies and tried to explain herself. She revisited the story of reconnecting with Jack, her ex, at a conference months earlier. What started as an innocent encounter spiraled into an affair. She insisted it was purely physical and that her feelings for me never waned. She claimed she had cut ties with Jack immediately after I discovered the affair, realizing the gravity of her mistake. Rachel pleaded for another chance. She proposed postponing the wedding, undergoing couples therapy, anything to salvage what we had. As I listened, the turmoil within me grew. Her broken demeanor and the genuine regret in her voice touched a soft spot in my heart. For a fleeting moment, I found myself contemplating the possibility of reconciliation. But then, vivid memories of Rachel kissing Jack outside that hotel came flooding back. I recalled how effortlessly she lied to my face while planning our future together, yet secretly seeing someone else. It became clear that there was no way to undo what had been done. I told Rachel that while I appreciated her apology, forgiveness was beyond my reach. The trust we once shared was shattered beyond repair. I expressed that any attempt to move past this would be marred by constant doubts, wondering if she was really where she claimed to be, questioning if her words were true. Such a foundation of suspicion is no way to build a marriage. That conversation was undoubtedly one of the most difficult I've ever endured. Rachel was devastated, and it took all my resolve not to reach out and comfort her. But I needed to stay strong. I wished her well, hoping she would find happiness elsewhere, and then I walked away for good. It felt like I was closing the book on what I once believed would be my life's narrative. In the subsequent weeks, I've turned my focus towards healing. I started seeing a therapist, which has been invaluable. Having an impartial person to discuss my tangled emotions with has helped me start to make sense of everything. My friends have also been a tremendous support. Liam, who first alerted me to the affair, has been particularly attentive, ensuring I'm not cooped up at home, whether it's for a game of basketball or a casual drink at our local pub. My other friends have been equally supportive, providing a listening ear when needed or distraction when I just need to escape my thoughts. Their patience and understanding have reminded me just how fortunate I am to have such a robust support network. I've also refocused on my career. After some time off to manage the initial shock, I plunged back into work, immersing myself in new projects that have reinvigorated my professional enthusiasm. For now, I'm still living with my parents, grateful for their unwavering support during this tumultuous period. I've begun searching for a new apartment, but I'm taking my time with it. Staying with my family has been a great comfort, providing a stable environment as I plan my next steps. However, the situation with some of Rachel's friends and our mutual acquaintances remains strained. A few of Rachel's closest friends have expressed their anger over how I revealed her infidelity, sending harsh messages accusing me of humiliating her. While I understand their loyalty, it's tough being seen as the villain by people I once considered friends. Conversely, many of our mutual friends have shown their support for me. Some have even distanced themselves from Rachel, feeling that her actions betrayed not just me, but everyone who supported our relationship. It's a mixed feeling. I'm grateful for the support, but saddened by the rifts caused. One of the most challenging aspects has been dealing with the fallout of the canceled wedding. The myriad small details I had to unwind were things I hadn't even thought of before: returning gifts, canceling honeymoon plans, and informing not just our main guest list, but also vendors, co-workers, and distant relatives. Despite these challenges, I'm beginning to envision a future beyond this ordeal. I'm setting new personal and professional goals. I plan to enroll in some courses to advance my career, a plan I'd put on hold during the wedding preparations. I'm also contemplating solo travel, perhaps fulfilling my long-held dream of exploring Europe. Regarding whether I was wrong to expose Rachel's infidelity and cancel the wedding, I've had ample time to reflect. The response to my original post overwhelmingly supported my decision to call off the wedding. I'm confident that was the right choice, as I couldn't marry someone who had so profoundly broken my trust. The decision to send the mass message, however, remains a point of contention. While it was a reaction to my hurt, many pointed out that it was impulsive and could have been handled more thoughtfully. After much reflection, I concede that in an ideal world, I would have taken time to calm down before finding a more thoughtful way to announce the wedding cancellation. However, I can't fully regret my actions. Caught in the whirlwind of shock and betrayal, I responded with raw emotion. It wasn't perfect, but it was authentically human. I am learning to forgive myself for not managing everything flawlessly in a scenario I never anticipated. So, what's next for me? Honestly, I'm still figuring that out, but for the first time since this ordeal began, I feel a sense of hope for the future. I'm not ready to consider dating again, not even close. Right now, my focus is on rebuilding my life on my terms. To those who offered support and advice on my original post, thank you. Your words have been incredibly meaningful. For anyone else experiencing similar heartache, remember, it does get better. The path isn't easy or quick, but there is improvement over time. And to Rachel, if you ever read this, I stand by what I said. I hope you find happiness. I hope we both can learn and grow from this experience. But it's important you understand that our chapter is definitively closed. Thank you all for your support, for listening, and for accompanying me on this journey. Your encouragement has been invaluable. Here's to new beginnings, to healing, and to whatever lies ahead. Now, on to the next story. Story 2. Years ago, I made a decision that drastically altered my life's path. I broke up with my girlfriend because I didn't want children. Now, back in her town after 15 years, I find myself overwhelmed with regret. Thoughts of her consume me, and I can't escape the memory of our time together. At 20, I met Lila, who was 19 at the time. She was stunning, inside and out. Her dark brown hair shimmered with hints of red and purple in the light, her golden brown eyes and doll-like lashes framed by freckles on her plump, rosy cheeks, and that one dimple appearing whenever she smiled just so. Lila was a year younger than me, but she always seemed so much wiser and more mature in every way. We dated for 2 years. I still remember the initial skepticism from her father, a no-nonsense cop who eventually warmed up to me, and her mother who loved me from the start, often remarking on how my green eyes perfectly complemented her daughter's golden brown ones in a way she found deeply romantic. Her younger siblings would eagerly play with me in their backyard. Lila got along wonderfully with my family, too. My parents and 2 brothers adored her instantly. My youngest brother, who was her age, even attended the same college, sharing classes and study sessions due to their similar majors. Even my 6-month-old dog, whom I had adopted before meeting her, seemed to prefer her company over mine. Lila shared her dreams with me, owning a secluded but not isolated home, becoming a doctor, a pediatrician, because of her love for children. She envisioned motherhood vividly, embracing all its potential highs and lows without reservation. She'd excitedly talk about baby names and nursery designs, and I thought I wanted all of it too, to marry her, to build the family she so deeply desired. She was my Lila, and I loved her deeply. But after 2 years, a realization began to dawn on me. I didn't actually want children. Initially, I thought my aversion was just a reaction to spending too much time around my mischievous cousins. However, The more I contemplated fatherhood, the more daunting it became. The thought alone would cause headaches and a gnawing discomfort in my stomach. The responsibilities of parenting, dealing with the incessant needs of an infant, the tantrums of a toddler, the defiance of a child, and the moodiness of a teenager overwhelmed me. I yearned for a different life, one filled with travel, financial freedom, and fewer constraints. After a few drinks one night, I opened up to Lila about not wanting kids. She went silent for a moment and then said calmly, "I won't try to change your mind, but I'm not giving up my dreams." I scoffed and dismissively told her we weren't going to have kids. Rising from the couch, she replied, "You might not want that anymore, but I still do. I'm not going to force either of us to change our minds and make one of us miserable." I realized then that she was breaking up with me. Despite her calm demeanor, I felt a surge of anger. As she silently began gathering her things, I tried to argue, insisting that wanting kids was foolish and a waste of time. When she remained steadfast, my frustration escalated to insults. I called her naive and criticized her aspiration to be both a mother and a doctor. Lila responded with a plea for calm, reminding me that it was okay for us to want different things. But in that moment, I couldn't handle her disagreement. Overwhelmed by anger, I punched a wall, kicked a door, and hurled anything within reach, demolishing our living room and kitchen while she watched in silence. She finally walked past me and left the apartment. The whole ordeal unfolded over a few hours, and by the end of it, I had lost the love of my life and left my apartment in ruins. Word of our breakup and my reaction quickly spread to my family. My mom was devastated when she heard, and my dad looked at me with the coldest stare I'd ever seen. My brothers were unanimous in their disapproval, with my younger brother remarking that I was fortunate Lila hadn't called the police. That was 15 years ago. Since then, I've attempted other relationships, but they never lasted. My career has taken me around the world, but now, fate has brought me back to the same town where Lila lives. Lila has built a fulfilling life since we parted ways. She married, earned her doctorate, had children, and is working as a pediatrician, the last I heard. My younger brother kept in touch with her for a few years post-breakup. He even invited her to his wedding, but she declined to avoid any potential drama. Now I find myself back in our hometown, the place where we grew up, dated, and shared a life. I can't stop thinking about her. I miss the scent of her sweet bakery-like perfume and her strawberry shampoo. I miss how her hair catches the light. She's 36 now, and the urge to reach out, to apologize, to tell her I still love her and regret everything is overwhelming. I long to hold her, to offer a heartfelt apology, but I'm uncertain if it's the right thing to do. Part of me craves closure, yet another part wonders if it's possible to rekindle what we had, though I suspect that chance may have already passed. Update 1, August 11th, 2024. In a twist of fate, I reached out to an ex-girlfriend recently, not expecting much, given our rocky end. Surprisingly, she responded, and after exchanging a few messages, we caught up on old times. Emboldened, I asked if she'd be open to meeting, and to my delight, she agreed. We've planned a date for tomorrow evening after she finishes work. The excitement is tinged with nerves. It's been nearly 15 years since we last went on a date. I'm fearful of making the same mistakes, of coming on too strong, or not living up to the moment. But I'm grateful for this chance to possibly mend things. She's 36, and I'm 37 now, and the stakes feel incredibly high. I've bought her favorite flowers and started wearing the cologne she loved back then, hoping these familiar scents might recreate some of the magic we once shared. Yet, there's a nagging fear in the back of my mind that I might mess things up, that this could lead to more heartache than healing. But I'm committed to trying, to making amends, even if it's just for a chance to right the wrongs of the past. I've been rehearsing what I want and need to say to her. The uncertainty of how this date will unfold is nerve-wracking, but I felt compelled to write down these jittery feelings. Update 2, August 15th, 2024. Since my last update, I reached out to Lila, despite some advising against it. I felt it was necessary to try to make amends. We exchanged a few messages, and I let her set the terms for a potential meeting. She agreed, and 3 days ago, we had our date. Seeing her again was overwhelming. She looked every bit the woman I fell in love with years ago, matured yet unmistakably the same. During our date, I was too nervous to talk much about myself, but Lila inquired about my job, my family, and my life in general. I found myself zoning out, struggling to maintain focus as I was overwhelmed by the urge to just hold her, to rekindle what once was. It was only when she finished asking about my life that I could finally inquire about hers. She shared that she got married 11 years ago and has 2 daughters, ages 8 and 6. Her happiness when talking about her children struck a chord of jealousy and regret in me. I felt I should have been the one to have a family with her. I learned that she is now a widow. Her husband passed away 7 years ago during her second pregnancy, an event that she has tried to appear unaffected by for her daughter's sake. I cautiously asked if she was seeing anyone, and she said no. When I asked if she ever thought of me post-breakup, her answers were evasive. Pressing for clarity, I encouraged her to be frank with me. Lila admitted that the breakup had left her deeply depressed, as she had envisioned a future together with me. Lila shared that she felt I had abruptly shattered our relationship and the dreams we built together, as if on a whim. She confessed that losing her first real love was devastating, and despite trying to convince herself otherwise, her desire to be a mom was unwavering. She knew sacrificing that dream would leave her miserable forever. I asked if my actions that night had scared her, if she had felt threatened. She admitted the yelling was overwhelming, and the chaos frightened her, but she didn't fear for her safety. That gave me a glimmer of hope. I apologized deeply for how things ended and expressed my regret for everything I did and said that night. Lila told me she had moved on and forgiven me years ago. Her capacity for forgiveness and kindness was always part of why I loved her. I ventured further, asking if she might consider giving me another chance, letting me back into her life. She hesitated, her silence sending me into a brief panic. She finally responded, stating she was open to me being part of her life, but regaining her trust would be essential before she could even think about dating me again. I was disappointed and disheartened, but I understood the fragility of the situation. I assured her I would respect her pace and would be grateful for any role I could have in her life, hoping to eventually earn her trust for a deeper relationship. I'm relieved to have Lila even partially back in my life, and I'm committed to proving to her that we should be together. I still hope for a future where we can share the family life she always envisioned. I know time is not limitless, but I am determined to make the most of what we have left.